Pineapple.
You're cured.
I went away.
It's foolproof every time. Say pineapple 3 times fast and look at the light, any light in the room, the brightest light that you can find, and your sneeze, your premeditated sneeze will be neutralized instantly.
It's amazing.
Foolproof. I know. It works. But why would you ever want to stop a sneeze? Unless you were, like, about to kiss someone.
You're right. Now I feel unfulfilled.
Yeah, you should. Sneezes are awesome.
Alright, well.
They release dopamine. They make you feel great.
And now that's been taken from me.
Yes, it has. You're welcome.
Well,
I just sabotaged.
I feel so...
You feel robbed.
Such a letdown.
You feel so robbed.
Alright.
Alright. Life Hacks with Kyle. Yep, it's a new segment coming soon. Alright.
So what's happening?
We should probably go live to YouTube.
We are.
We
I
are.
already did that.
Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome.
Remember a minute ago when I was like, I'm going to go live to YouTube?
Nope, don't remember that at all.
Okay.
Hey.
Is there usually more than one thing we go live to?
No. I just have a really poor memory right now. Jet lag.
Jet lag.
Jet lag. Pulling up
Such
the
a good excuse.
Playing the jet lag
Like
card.
Laurel and Hardy.
Like Laurel and Hardy, those old school gangsters.
They did a routine. No, Laurel and Hardy did Who's on First, right? Right? Is that who did Who's on First?
What does that have to do with them being gangsters, though, Paul?
Because it was the same time period. Like,
well, because gangsters exist now. They're just in the streets of our city.
I know, but...
You know, they're called Bloods and Crips. Doesn't mean that they're related to Louis C.K. just because he's a comedian.
Did Laurel and Hardy do Who's on First? If I can at least remember that.
Oh, man.
Yes, Laurel and Hardy did Who's on First. All right?
They're not gangsters, though. That's nothing
I'm
to do with
sure
them
they
being
did
gangsters.
routines where they pretended to be gangsters. That's probably where I got that from.
You know what really sucks is that I googled it, and there's actually a lady named Laura Hardy on Facebook.
Laura Hardy.
Laura Hardy.
Oh.
She probably gets that all the time. Any relation to...
But it's Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel?
I also knew it was Laurel and
Even
Hardy,
worse.
despite the dude who was talking about that did misspell that. So I knew that as well. I'm trying to dig myself out of a hole here.
Yep, stop trying.
Abbott and Costello? Wait.
The internet never
Oh,
forgets.
you're right. I was wrong. It's Abbott and Costello who did his Never mind.
You're on a
I'm
streak
sorry.
right now.
My knowledge of like early comedians and everything is alright. I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop.
Well, like, no, those comedians, that was Thelma and Louise.
Just those aren't even comedians.
I know. I'm imitating what you would say next.
Shut up.
At the rate you're going, wouldn't put it past you. All right, no. Again, we're pulling out all the stops for jet lag. We are so jet lagged right now.
You're right. I need a much bigger shovel.
Seriously.
Yeah. Not gonna try to
so
do.
true.
I'm not gonna try to say anything of consequence or importance for the rest of the show.
How has this show like suddenly deteriorated so much
I don't know.
since your half? Now that we're in mine and we've been drinking a little bit, I feel like we're way more loopy right now because of the jet lag, and that's not an excuse. Just because we were already pretty exhausted and we're on Taiwan time, so to speak.
Your wife is just passed out right there.
Yeah, did you go to the bathroom and just notice she's just wifey sauce is dead? She's probably dead. She's probably not even breathing right now. We wouldn't even know. You're like, oh, it's just the jet lag. We're using the jet lag. I know, she's a biatch, you know, just for soaking up all the glory and rubbing it in our faces. Yeah. I'm just gonna sleep right here where they can see me. So whenever they go to the bathroom, they'll be like, fuck her. Wish I could do that right now, but I have to host a live show. That's how she thinks. That's how evil she is.
Yep.
Somehow attracted to the...
Must be so hard for you.
Distraction. Okay, let's go on to the show here, all right? This is episode 107. Wow, it sounds crazy to say that. We've done 107 of these. We still have no idea what we're doing, but thank you for joining us. Nonetheless, this is Side B. If you haven't watched Side A, which is the first part of the show, go ahead and watch that on Paul's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Paul'sHardware. But if you're just joining us, welcome. Welcome to the show. We have some stuff that we like to sell in our stores that if you buy, we get money from that, and it helps us pay for things like clothes. And who am I kidding? We get all of our clothes for free.
And motorcycles.
Boobs and motorcycles.
Boots.
Oh, boots. Boots. That's what I was going to say. My store is bitwit.tech/store. I know that some of the things are sold out right now. I'm currently working with my my merch guy, the same guy that Paul works with.
He's on vacation.
He's on vacation. Okay, no order. That's fine. But I'll be restocking stuff very soon. Paul is also selling stuff on his store, paulshardware.net. Lots of stuff. Just buy all the things. Buy all the things on both of our stores. It's great. It's really high quality stuff.
Look at these hoodies. Great.
Look at that.
You might be like,
Look at
it's summer, Paul. Why would I want a hoodie?
Look at that hoodie.
Well, you know what? In Australia, it's winter.
Yep. It's always winter somewhere.
And Australia is a theme for today's show.
Yep, totally is.
Because of Anthony.
Yeah. What was it, Sesame Street?
I know. I think so.
Today's show was brought to you by the country Australia.
Australia.
All right. Let's just dive into some shit here. I'm gonna start. Usually we start the second half of the show with a continuation of tech news, but I'm gonna switch things up here and sort of do a little bit of a warm up, sort of an icebreaker, where Paul and I talk about our favorite Computex tech that we saw at Computex 2017 this year.
Our favorite Computech.
Computech. Yes, exactly. That's what the name of the segment is. Computech.
Computech.
Yes, Computech. It's very strange
Computex.
phonetic spelling. But
With the S.
by the way, anyone who's donating in chat right now, we will be answering all the messages or questions that you attach to those donations at the end of this half of the show. So feel free to go crazy, go ham on that shit. All right, Paul, what was your favorite thing at Computex, or some of your favorite things?
I don't remember.
Wow, I was like, wow, dramatic pause, and then he's gonna hit me with like this glorious answer.
Okay.
So it was
Practical.
amnesia.
Practical. Let's talk about something practical here.
Okay.
Fantex Eclipse P300.
Ah, yes. Stole my heart.
I
agree.
I thought that was a nice piece of hardware there.
Mm-hmm.
Fantex, after coming at CES and being like, look at this case we made, the Fantex...
P400?
No, the Enthu Elite, or the...
Oh, the $900
yeah,
case, or $800
here's this $1,000 crazy top-end blah, blah, blah over the top thing, which most people were like, wow, that looks pretty cool. No way I'm ever even going to touch anything like that. $60. They did a really cool thing, I felt like, with the body. It's just one of those design elements where they took what is essentially the single piece of steel that they wrap around for the bottom of the case, and they just continue to wrap it up the side, which meant that single piece is the base as well as the PSU shroud. Mm-hmm. And that's also the external piece on that side.
Right.
They have a small-ish piece of tempered glass that just sits right on top of there. Basic, design for that. Painted black interior. Only comes with a single 120mm fan, but $60. And it looks like a really solid starter case that anyone could build a nice-looking computer in and not have to worry about spending $100 or something like that on it. It's full ATX as well. What I really like to see actually is them make a micro ATX version of that. Just make it like 2 inches shorter and micro ATX. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. I feel like there should be more micro ATX motherboards. I feel like there's been a dearth of those lately. I feel like mini ATX has really taken off, and obviously ATX is sort of the standard, but I feel like micro ATX sort of gets left behind in a sense, at least for the few, the current generations and stuff from Intel and AMD. Granted, there's like B350 boards from B350 boards from AMD and stuff for Ryzen CPUs that are micro ATX, but I don't know. I feel like it could use a little bit more love, that form factor, and I feel like that would also bring on a bunch more micro ATX options in the chassis market too. I agree with that. I feel like there are a lot of good budget cases right now for ATX, not so many, and even for ITX, not so many for micro ATX. I agree with that. Another cool budget case, not quite as inexpensive as the P300, but also very compelling, was the Enso from Bitphoenix. Honestly, I feel like I haven't really kept my eyes on Bitphoenix and what they've been doing in the last year or two, but the Enso really caught my eye, and I did a video on it at the event, and it was pretty impressive. I mean, $79, $80 price point for the Enso, and it looks fantastic. I mean, you see it in the video, it looks great. It looks even better in person. It's got some addressable RGB implementation at the front.
This is it?
Yes, that's it. So that comes stock. You don't have to include that. It already comes with it. $79 case. It looks absolutely fantastic. There's a tempered glass side panel,
nice.
A power supply shroud. Form meets function in this sort of, you can see Wifey Sauce just kind of trolling in the background, drinking her coffee. A little bit of an Easter egg there. But a fantastic looking case that is really nice. Just being a total troll right now. You can even do some custom water cooling in it. overall, a very fantastic little chassis. There's a 240 millimeter support for a radiator at the front, compatible with ASUS addressable RGB LEDs and all that jazz. So I thought it was a nice offering. It's kind of refreshing. It has a nice like stylized look that's not too over the top,
Cool.
kind of minimalistic. So. Let's see, other things that I saw at Computex. From a graphics standpoint, really wasn't expecting much from the video card sector, just because I
was hoping to see something a little bit more tangible from Vega.
Right.
It seemed like that was on the ready to go, but
not quite.
Not really.
Yeah, which is fine, because I'm like, okay, they're just finalizing some things. They're really taking their time with it. They're not trying to rush things like some other competitors we know. But the Zotac booth. I went to Zotac and they had a mini GTX 1080 Ti that was 8.3 inches long, I believe, dual fan design, which is just cute. It's adorable. Zotac is pretty known for some pumping out some mini GPUs.
So tiny.
GTX 1080 Ti. This is probably the smallest yet most powerful card that we've seen as of yet, which is pretty exciting. They're still working on the thermals. They said that it was hitting like 82 degrees Celsius at the hottest, and they're trying to rework that so that they can get it down to like the mid to high 70s.
Yeah.
Which I think is acceptable. But I could see a lot of possibilities with this, especially with like a lot of mini ITX cases that are getting really popular these days. I like how they had done away with the yellow as well on the backplate.
Yeah, that's
no
nice.
yellow.
I'm glad about that too.
I'm cool with that.
Nice.
We haven't seen a card this small with dual 8-pin PCIe in a while.
That's true. That takes up a lot of the PCB space.
Yeah, and actually they have done some interesting things to get the PCB down to that size for this GPU. For example, the heat pipes there, you can see they've kind of bent them like sort of vertically. Okay. They kind of like bend up. I guess originally they were sort of flat on their older cards, and they've kind of bent them to decrease the actual length that it takes up. They've also done away with like frilly things like the RGB controller and the fan stop controller. So even though this doesn't do 0 decibel at low at idle states anymore, it does allow them to free up more room on the PCB so that they can actually shorten it, customize it to be the size that it is. So that's kind of cool. And who cares? I really don't mind that it doesn't have RGB, especially if you're going to be putting it.
No fan stop mode.
No fan stop mode, but the fans seem relatively quiet, for what I could tell at the booth. Just putting my ear up to it. Actually, I didn't have it running. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. But fun stuff there. Jet lag. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? Paul, what else did you fancy at Computex this year?
Well, we already talked about it a little bit on my half of the show, but it was really cool seeing an X399 motherboard in the flesh right there for Ryzen Threadripper whenever that comes out.
Yeah.
Also cool that AMD's got an LGA platform going on. I mean, I know that's just kind of one of those.
It's kind of exciting though.
It's less significance compared to like a lot of the other things, like how many cores it's got and raw power and everything like that. But
sure.
It's cool for some reason to see AMD with an LGA part coming in, especially having over 4,000 pins on the socket. That's pretty crazy too.
Yeah.
It's also nice to see ASUS already working with them to have a high-end Zenith board that they've got. That looks like it's pretty much ready to go.
Right.
Who knows how long it's going to be. AMD saying summertime is when Threadripper is going to launch an X399, so should be within the next couple months theoretically.
Yep.
When does summer actually end? When is the first day of fall? Let's find that out.
October?
First day of fall.
Totally wrong.
Friday, September 22nd.
September.
All right, so they could push it as far as September 21st.
Right. That's their deadline.
June, July, August, September. So that's about 3 months. So it could be anywhere within the next 3 months, but that's still pretty good. And that means they would be still hitting well within well prior to the Black Friday and the holiday time frame, and even within enough time theoretically to launch before the back to school rush, which is kind of the first retail rush that happens when people start spending more money towards the end of the year.
Right.
But yeah, that's cool. Other than that, what else? I don't know.
What was your favorite case?
Favorite case?
Yeah. You checked out a bunch of cases.
I liked seeing the new half. The new half.
Yeah,
case
that's one case I didn't get to
Cooler
check
Master.
out.
You didn't see that?
No, I didn't get to check it out. I had no time.
Let's see if I can.
I had zero tiempo.
Here's one of my videos linked on your channel. Give me a moment. Just a moment. Where'd it go? Here it is. The half. So, so Cooler Master is, they've redone their naming scheme. Here, I gotta jump ahead.
Jump ahead.
Past all the peripherals. So they've redone their naming scheme. So they still have they're calling everything Master Case still.
Yeah.
So there's Master Case, and then there's 3, 5, and 7. 3 is is micro. 5 is full tower. 5 is mid tower. 7 is full tower.
Okay.
So half is gonna start with H.
Okay.
So H500 means half mid tower. I don't know what the P means, and that wasn't explained to me. But there's P in there too.
Tower.
But there's still P. All right. So I am a big fan of large fans.
You're a big fan.
They're just big fan. And that's what the halves have been all about before. So these two fans in the front are 200 millimeters. They're a new 200 millimeter fan with RGB in there. They were very quiet. Obviously, it's a loud floor environment there, like it's on the Computex floor and everything. So hard to say exactly, but big fans typically can move more air while spinning at lower RPMs. That's just kind of one thing, something that can do. So it's really cool to have the removable plates that they have on the front and on the side. It is a plastic finish for the top piece and the side piece here, but it seemed like it's fairly high quality. Tons of I/O. You got USB 3.0 and 2.0 up there on the front.
Looks nice.
It would be cool. What I was missing here is that USB 3.1 Gen 2. I'm not sure if that's going to be something that can be added on as part of the Master Case series. I don't know if this is something that you could swap out a panel for or something like that.
Right.
But the top piece and the front piece here both just kind of like pop off, kind of like the Master Case Pro 6 that I worked with recently. It's really easy to remove. And then they have a completely covered bottom panel here down by for the power supply. The option to break out the graphics card and put it sideways here so you can have a better look at it. Tempered glass side panel window. And then again, like just that integrated RGB controls. It just seems like a nice looking case.
It does look nice.
This is the Cosmos C700, which was also there, which is a full tower, much larger case. And this one was unique in that it had a curved tempered glass side panel, which was kind of cool. Also a unique kind of color control option there for controlling the RGBs, and a pretty cool build in there. I don't know. I just like the half a little bit more just because the Cosmos is really large. It's a full tower.
Right.
And I tend to, I don't know. It's been a while since I've really wanted a massive full tower system.
I feel like unless you're doing some insane custom water cooling, I can't justify
insane custom water cooling, or like I have 8 mechanical drives.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, plus a bunch of other things or something like
cards
that.
or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah. And the half, they don't know the price yet, but they were talking in the $130 to $150 price range.
Okay.
Which for what you get there seemed pretty nice.
Yeah.
Especially with, I believe it comes with at least the 2 front fans and a couple top and rear fan included.
Yeah.
So having really nice large fans included with the case, that's a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's a good summary, just briefly of what caught our eye at Computex this year. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the tech news and discussion that we have lined up here. The first thing on the list is I kind of wanted to just sort of address the whole X299 situation with Skylake-X and Skylake-X. And, obviously a lot of other YouTubers and just journalists, like press websites, have weighed in on this topic, including, Jay from Jay's 2 Cents and Linus, which you brought the video up already, which already has, like you said, almost 2 million views. So this is sort of a viral topic here that I feel like we could address on the show. And we've already sort of talked about it briefly on your half, but just to go into more detail about just sort of our thoughts, our opinions on what Intel has done right and what they've sort of, missed the mark on. One thing I feel like we didn't really address too much. Well, we briefly addressed it. Was the whole RAID paywall with VROC.
Yes.
Which is the ability to RAID multiple SSDs, NVMe SSDs that need to be Intel-based SSDs in order to be bootable, which is already sort of a strange restriction. Seems kind of anti-consumer. Additionally, if you wanted to do so RAID 0 comes free out of the gate, but if you want to do, let's say, RAID 1 or RAID 10, you have to pay $100 for a dongle that you plug into your motherboard in order to support that. And we've talked about that sort of technology competing with Intel's own enterprise market, which is understandable, but it just seems like a slap in the face to consumers who want to take advantage of these technologies without having to go the enterprise route. Because there are people who want to RAID 1 or RAID 10 or even RAID 5 that aren't necessarily small business. They're just regular consumers, maybe power users like me or you, or you or I, and then $300, I believe, is for the dongle that supports RAID 10. So RAID 5. If you want RAID 5, you have to pay $300 for a little dongle.
These are rumored values, by the way.
Rumored values, of course, that are obviously still subject to validity, but
usually the situation with rumors like this are either A, the company in question is putting out feelers, so they're kind of suggesting this to kind of see what people's reaction is, or B, yes, that's exactly what they intend to do, and it's just leaked a little bit early. So that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. But in particular for the RAID situation, it just seems like something that has been just there and available for people to do when it comes to the SATA RAID configurations that Intel has made available for people for quite some time, going back to Sandy Bridge, I believe. Whereas now, having to pay to take advantage of what is a pretty cool feature, VROC, or Virtual RAID on CPU, which allows you to take basically an expanding number of M.2 NVMe SSDs, whether you're connecting them directly to the board itself via M.2 slots or U.2 slots, or you're using breakout cards like the Asus card,
the DIMM.2
that they used. Asus also has DIMM.2, but they're talking specifically about this Hyper M.2 card here, which allows you to add 4 more M.2 NVMe devices, and also allow them to be addressable and configurable by the motherboard using the CPU as kind of the brains of the RAID controller, and also to set that up as a RAID configuration that can be bootable.
Right.
Which is nice, which is a very nice configuration to have, and which a lot of people want to be able to do. So, how much functionality you get on the motherboard aside from this when it comes to RAID configurations with rapid storage technology, I think is a big question. And again, whether or not Intel is actually going to be requiring people to pay $100 for using RAID 1 or $300 to use RAID 5 is a big question, and something that I think people should hold Intel accountable for if that's something that they're planning to do. Again, this is kind of rumor right now. We're not really sure how this is going to play out. And as we talked about, I might have to show a little bit. Intel has already, in the information that they've launched about Core X and X299 so far, they have said that you should be able to access 3 M.2 or U.2 NVMe devices with rapid storage technology, which is the pre-boot RAID environment that you guys might be familiar with if you've set up any sort of RAID configuration on X99 or Z270 or Z170 or any of the chipset-based RAID controllers that Intel's had going on for the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
Right.
So yeah, and yes, I am tired. We're jet lagged.
Yes, we're both just don't hold us accountable for the next 35 minutes or so.
But yeah.
And then the other issue, that I want to talk about that we should address is like Skylake-X and how that sort of doesn't make much sense. I mean, essentially what you have is a glorified 7700K or a glorified Kaby Lake processor line that is being offered on the X299 chipset, which means you're going to have to buy a new board to support these CPUs, which doesn't seem like they're going to have much of a performance boost, other than maybe slightly higher clock speeds out of the box and maybe a little bit more overclocking headroom. But I mean, the fact that Intel has sort of, I feel like, smashed together these lower-end Skylake-X chips and these higher-end Skylake-X chips on the same platform means that motherboard manufacturers are sort of forced to make motherboards that accommodate this wide range of CPUs. Whether you're talking, 16 PCIe lanes, is it on Skylake-X?
Yeah, 16.
Or up to 44 on the higher-end core count chips.
Or 20 or 28 with the middle.
Or 20 in the middle range. So anywhere between that range, which is huge for a single platform, which means if you wanted to get on the Skylake-X bandwagon, you'd have to buy a motherboard that is really fitted for way more than what Skylake-X on its own can offer, which means you're going to have a lot of features on that board that you can't utilize with that processor. Which also means you're going to be spending a lot more for a motherboard going X299 if you are going to be considering Skylake-X, which is why Skylake-X makes no sense. You're going to be spending out the ass for a motherboard that you're only going to be utilizing part of, as opposed to just buying into a platform that is tailor-made for a CPU of that caliber. Like, for example, Coffee Lake, which is going to be more mainstream, not high-end desktop, but is also going to offer, it's not going to be, you won't feel so bottlenecked. I feel like it doesn't make sense to buy a motherboard, an X299 board that has 8 DIMM slots, and then put in a Skylake-X CPU that only supports dual-channel memory, where you can only fit 4 DIMMs into that board, and you have 4 DIMM slots that go completely unused and unable to be utilized. And potentially more than that, M.2 slots that might not be available to you with Skylake-X because you're so limited on PCIe lanes. Like, why would you have a CPU that has only 16 PCIe lanes on a platform that is really supposed to be fitted for maximum expandability when it comes to different peripherals and storage options? You're going to be basically, it doesn't make any sense. You're going to have M.2 slots you can't use. You're going to have DIMM slots that you can't use.
So you're
going to be paying more for a board that you can't use.
So yeah, and like Kyle was saying, you only get a dual-channel memory controller integrated with the Skylake-X processor. So one of the things that I was kind of surprised to see, well, not surprised to see, but startled me, I guess, when I first saw it, was the configurations that you have. So this is an Apex board from Asus, which is an X299 board, which has 4 DIMM slots, which they specifically did because using fewer DIMM slots allows for better memory overclocking. Since it's a Skylake-X CPU, they're only populating 2 of the DIMM slots on one side. That's the way it works when you have Skylake-X with a quad-channel configured motherboard. You only use you only use the DIMM slots on one side of the CPU. So there's 2 more DIMM slots on the opposite side of the CPU here. Those are basically useless with a Skylake-X processor.
That's not symmetrical at all.
It's not symmetrical, yes. But it also means that you could buy an X299 motherboard with 4 DIMM slots, which some of them have, and a Skylake-X CPU, and end up with 2 DIMM slots available, instead of what you would have on a Z270 motherboard, which is typically going to be at least 4, unless you're talking mini ITX or something like that.
Right.
So it does seem very cut down on what you're going to be able to plug into the board. So it just seems like worth X299, where you're probably going to be spending at minimum $200 on a motherboard. And that's probably going to be the lowest end motherboard possible.
Yeah.
Most X99 motherboards are probably going to be
250 plus.
250 or more. If you put in a Skylake-X processor into it, you're not going to get the full functionality of that board. So it's going to be really difficult to say, yeah, here, get this Skylake-X 7740X or whatever the CPU is called, and this X299 board, and you're getting a good value for the money, because what you could equivalently get with a 7700K and a Z270 motherboard seems like it would be a much better deal with what's available there and what you'd pay for the motherboard, and the fact that you're not basically paying for extra functionality on the board that gets shut off because you only have 16 PCIe lanes to work with versus 28 or 44.
Yeah.
Now, all that said, here is my assessment of like, all right, I'm going to try to take Intel's side on this for a second. Okay? Intel's side of this. And let me ask you guys who are watching this, if Intel were to present it this way, would it change the way that your feelings about this platform, your initial perception? Because again, we're still at least a few weeks off from anyone coming out with independent reviews of these CPUs or of these motherboards or anything like that. So please bear that in mind. A lot of what we're talking about right now is reaction to the specs that have been laid out by Intel, and it's not unwarranted. There's definitely tons of stuff to be upset about, but we're still a ways off from actual independent reviews. So what if Intel were to say this? Skylake-X is for overclockers. What if they just came straight out and said that? You know what? We understand. We're not expecting a lot of people to get Skylake-X CPUs. We're not expecting huge sales in that realm. But what we did was we took a Skylake-X processor. We took the Skylake die. We removed the GPU from it, the iGPU from it, which, again, you could look at both ways. You could look at it as like, oh, now I'm losing more functionality of like QuickSync and stuff like that. That's viable. But what if they said, well, we're not worried about that. If you want QuickSync, go Z270. They said we removed the iGPU from it. We increased the TDP. We dropped it into a platform that is, by and large, going to have better power delivery that's made for much higher-end processors. And guess what? You're going to get 10 to 40% better overclocking headroom out of this chip. And we know, even for most people who are buying this at home, that makes no sense. This is for overclocking world records.
I mean,
that's what we designed this for. That's what it's made for. And that's who we're marketing it for. They haven't said any of this, mind you. But what if they did? Would that change your perception of it? Would you instead think of this processor as being like, oh, why did they do this? It makes no sense. It's confusing. It muddies the waters of this platform. Maybe you'd think like, oh, well, those are just there for people to be like, hey, we just hit 5.7 gigahertz on air. Or we just hit 7.7 gigahertz on a 7740KX or whatever the CPU is, which no one's come close to, which is at 7700K. Would that make more sense to you?
I mean, if they could guarantee 10 to 40% overclocking
again,
headroom, throwing in that number changes a bit, changes things a bit, right? As soon as you start throwing out hard numbers, then it's like, okay, well, then you can measure things a bit more accurately and precisely. So I mean, yeah, if they could say like 40% more overclocking, there's going to be definitely a market for that. People who just want to push things as high as they can go, who are going to invest in a more expensive motherboard just to hit those higher clock speeds and maybe milk that frame rate just a bit more. I can understand that, but they're not. The thing is like they're not ready to say that yet. I feel like they're
not saying that, but
yeah, they're not, and
but
I feel
they
like
could say that.
But they didn't. So I feel like that's the issue.
They haven't so far. Well,
it's so, and this goes back to them, to Intel being Intel sort of rushing this whole thing, right? Sort of rushing this thing as not so much like some premeditated plan they've had in the works for the last 6 months or even the last few weeks, but just sort of a reactive type of move, sort of a marketing sort of a reactionary thing where Intel is feeling threatened by AMD, and so they've kind of just blasted all of their cards on the table, even though they're really not ready to play them. And I feel like if they had more concrete specs, I mean, they've announced, their 14 to 18 core processors, like they're here already, but we're not even going to see them till 6 months down the line plus. And so they're
that's a rumor.
That's a rumor. This is a rumor. I mean, we've heard rumors from ASUS reps and things like that, but the fact is that Intel doesn't seem to really know 100% of what they can offer. It seems like the marketing reps at Intel went to the engineers and said, so AMD Threadripper was just announced, and they have this 16 core 32 thread. Like, what's the highest core count that we could get away with saying on paper to our audience? And then engineers were just like, well, theoretically, I guess we could probably do 18 cores. And so the marketing team was like, yes, great, awesome. And then and the engineers are probably like, but we don't really know anything else about it. Like, that's the only spec we can give you right now. And Intel marketing was just like, fuck it, we don't care. 18 cores is good, 18 cores, 32 threads. We'll go to the market with that. We'll present that at Computex. That's like 2 cores higher than what Threadripper is, and we don't know the TDP. We can't tell them the turbo clocks.
36 threads.
36 threads, sorry. 36 threads, whatever. Devil's in the details and all of that. But I just feel like, because this is such a rush thing, that your proposition makes a lot more sense, where if Intel could give us the specifics of what their new platform could achieve, that would instill a bit more confidence in the end user, right? Because it means like, oh, they're actually on top of their game. They actually know what they can offer. Whereas now it seems like they're sort of dangling something on a string, but they're trying to reel us in before we really see the full picture, before they're able to give us the whole story. So I feel like there's it's a bit dishonest to the end user in a way, simply because Intel doesn't want to look like they're second best to AMD. But
certainly, and yes, and when it comes to the high-end CPUs that again were announced by Intel but don't seem like they're ready, it seems very, very, very much like a paper launch, and very much like them trying to get something out there that can be a counter to the Threadripper CPU that AMD seems to have, somewhat ready to launch. But I mean, you can also look at Intel and what they've been developing on the server side for many years, and what they've had on the Xeon with Xeons for quite some time, which is steadily increasing number of cores on the CPUs. So they've been able to make CPUs with massive numbers of cores. Like, that's not something that is challenging for Intel. Porting it to the consumer side, selling it at a price that makes sense to consumers without at the same time hurting their server-side business, I think is the challenge that they're going through right now. But I think when it comes to the Skylake-X stuff at the low end, I think people see that as just something that is confusing, and something where they're like, all right, is Intel really trying to sell that to me right now? And I think as reviewers who, our job is typically to take a product, test it, see how it performs, and say, here's where this fits within the consumer space right now. Here is where this product makes sense for you at home if you're going to invest X number of dollars into a new computer or something like that. And I think that's why Skylake-X is hitting people like so. It's like so confusing and difficult to swallow for so many people, because it's coming from the point of like, does Intel really think they can sell us this? And I think you and I, and most people who are familiar with the space, would say no. They're going to have a really hard time selling Skylake-X to people. And we're going to have a really hard time recommending it to people, because I'm going to have a really hard time saying, yeah, invest that money in an X299 motherboard and then get a 4-core, 4-thread CPU. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to say that. But
right.
I guess all I'm saying with that is, like, I feel like if Intel were to change the way that they're framing at least those Skylake-X CPUs, treat them more as sort of a unique little extra that's been tacked onto this, that's less of a focus than like the rest of the stuff, the high core count, powerful processors that we've kind of come to understand as being fitting for the high-end desktop platform from Intel. I think it might at least clear up some confusion on that. But again, that's just speculation. I have no idea if Intel has any plans on treating it that way.
Do you think there's a strong chance that initially, before Threadripper was announced, that Intel initially planned Skylake-X to just be launched on Z270 as sort of a Skylake refresh on the same platform, but once Threadripper came in with a completely new platform on X399, Intel felt like they had to develop their new Kaby Lake processors on a completely new platform to stay competitive.
I don't think that's the case. I feel like Skylake-X has been planned for a while. I think Intel had this idea in their head for some time now. I think the reaction to Threadripper is the high core count CPUs, the 14, 16, and 18 core CPUs that they've announced, but again, that are still mainly paper at this point. I think those are the reaction to Threadripper. I think Skylake-X is an idea that's been there, that they've had, that they're going ahead with because it's already been in the works and they've already got CPUs manufactured and that kind of thing. Again, I think it's the type of thing that makes less sense, but I feel like if they were to market it in a way that's not like, hey, we think you should buy this because it's a good value, but hey, we made this because we thought it would be fun for overclockers to play with. I don't know. I think that changes at least part of the perception of that platform. But again, that's up to Intel and if they even want to say that. The other argument for Skylake-X is that it's designed for system integrators, which is a completely other area of the market that we who do DIY stuff typically don't even grasp that much, because I have no idea how many computers system integrators move, like boutique manufacturers, pre-built computers. I have no idea. Yeah. I'm completely
aloof,
blind when it comes to that area of the market. But is it enough that Intel thinks that, hey, providing these CPUs on this platform will allow system integrators to say, here, person who doesn't know that much about computers, here's a quad-core, 8-thread based computer that we're selling you, and they probably don't even care about the socket or the chipset or anything else going on in there. They just care about a few basic facts, such as core count and memory, that, you know, their friend who's into computers told them about.
They're like the Apple users of the PC world.
I mean, yeah, potentially to some degree, but, you know, system integrators, that's another side of it. That's the other side that's been explained to me, is this is the reason why Skylake-X exists.
It's for the dark side.
And again, I don't fully grasp that, and I don't fully understand how that can be sold to people who who might be less familiar with the internals of a computer, but that's what's been explained to me so far. So, yeah.
Skylake-X.
Skylake-X.
When you don't know what you're doing.
Apparently. or really awesome for overclocking. See, that's
really awesome
I don't know.
for
I don't know.
overclocking.
I'm just I feel like there must be some Intel marketing people out there right now who've seen in Linus's video, who are kind of like in that realm of like, hey, public perception of this isn't going so well right now, and I guess all I'm saying is I feel like that would be a way to market it that wouldn't be immediately shat upon by reviewers and everything.
Yeah,
that's
potentially.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, though. I feel like we gave that a good talk. Good talk, Paul. Good talk.
Yeah, it's been good.
Let's move on to some Skylake-X news. Other news, we're talking about a couple of models now within the Skylake-X family that have had their benchmarks leaked online via Geekbench. The Geekbench 3 database has revealed some telling benchmarks of the 7800X and the 7820X, both Core i7 Skylake-X processors. This article comes from WCCF Tech, so take it with a grain of salt. In other words, so just for starters, let's talk about some of the specifics here within Skylake-X. Starting with the Core i7 7800X, this is more of the entry-level 6-core, 12-thread Skylake-X processor with a base clock of 3.5 gigahertz, boosting up to 4.0, and we've got 8.25 megabytes of L3 cache, quad-channel memory support with 28 PCIe lanes. When overclocked, the 7800X scored 6,134 points in single-threaded performance and single-threaded tests, and 37,344 points in multi-threaded tests. Now, the main competitor, as of now, to the 7800X on the AMD side would be their Ryzen 5 1600X, since it also sports 6 cores and 12 threads, but rolls in at $120 US cheaper. So technically, the 1600X would be the more cost-effective chip. That scored, the 1600X scored 5,956 points in single-threaded tests and 36,061 points in multi-threaded tests. And this, again, is with both CPUs overclocked. The 1600X, mind you, was heavily overclocked to 5.4 gigahertz. Obviously the stock results were a little bit less, actually significantly less than what the overclocked ones were able to achieve. But at the end of the day, the 7800X, again, based on these rumored specifications, 7800X had a 3 to 4% lead over the stock 1600X in single-threaded and multi-threaded, but is 56% more expensive. So if we're reading this right, let's assume that the rumors are true, just for the sake of argument. That doesn't seem like a great value to pick up a 7800X, which is only going to be a few points higher in performance over a 1600X, but is going to cost over 50% more. Now, bear in mind that Ryzen does have, on the CPU itself, 8 fewer PCIe Gen 3 lanes, but that's not going to affect everyone. But that's just, again, these are just the results that we're seeing right now with these rumored benchmark leaks. The Core i7 7820K, which is, or 7820, is it K or X?
X. They're all X.
Sorry, that was a typo there. 7820X, which is the fastest Skylake-X 8-core 16-thread model. So this is bumping up from the 7800 quite a bit. Two extra cores and 4 extra threads. This is a $600 CPU from Intel with a base and boost clock of 3.6 gigahertz and 4.3 gigahertz, respectively. The max boost 3.0 clock frequency is 4.5 gigahertz. Again, that's on up to 2 cores optimized. And this is also sort of a thing that we were kind of criticizing about Skylake-X, particularly with the CPU. It's an 8-core model that has only 28 PCIe lanes, where the last generation in Broadwell E, that 8-core model had 40 PCIe lanes. So it seems like a big step backward here. If you were to, if you wanted that extra bandwidth for additional expansion cards, peripherals, M.2, U.2, SSDs, and so forth. But besides the point, this is $100. This chip, this $600 chip, is $100 more expensive than the competing Ryzen 7 1800X on the AMD side, which has the same core and thread count, 8 and 16 respectively. The 7820X scored 6,034 points in single-threaded tests and 47,032 points in multi-threaded tests, respectively, multi-threaded tests, versus the 1800X, which got 4,387 and 34,647 points in the same runs, respectively, single and multi-thread applications. The overclocked 7820X scored 39% higher in single-threaded and 35% higher in multi-threaded tests than the 1800X, and it costs 20% more. So technically this seems like, again, if these rumors are true and these benchmarks are legitimate, that the 7820X seems to be, at this point, a better value over the 1800X than the 7800X would be over the 1600X. So there's that. And then finally they were able to find some leaked benchmarks in the database for Geekbench 3 on the Core i9 7900X, which is a $1,000 CPU, 10 core, 20 threads. So it's technically replacing the 6950X from Intel, which is the Broadwell E equivalent core and thread count, which was $1,700 at its launch. So this is technically $600 or $700 lower at launch, but seems to perform a little bit better, actually. 9% faster in single-threaded and multi-threaded tests in Geekbench 3 than the 6950X for significantly less dough. So it seems like the 7900X, again, if the rumors and benchmarks that we're talking about are true, that the 7900X Core i9 seems to be the best value over the 7820X and the 7800X, with that 7800X seemingly being the worst value of the bunch. But those are the 3 CPUs on the Skylake-X side of things that have been more or less tested against their Ryzen counterparts or even their internal Intel counterparts. But I guess the main point here is that things look promising, at least for the performance. If you are going to go the Skylake-X route, definitely Skylake-X makes a lot more sense right now than Skylake-X, which we're still trying to justify the reason for. However, obviously, we're not going to really know the true benchmarks until these processors reach us, the reviewers. The Core X series itself is under NDA until the 12th of this month, and you can't really purchase any of them until the 26th of June. And on that date, on the 26th, you're only going to be able to purchase four of those Skylake-X CPUs. The rest of them will be later on, months away. The high end or the high core count of the HCC chips are not quite ready. This month's launch will only speak for the lower core count processors on Skylake-X.
I don't know anything about what you're talking about right now.
Oh, neither do I. I said nothing. I don't know any of that. I thought we already discussed that on the show, but apparently we didn't. And this is all just speculation. These are all random thoughts and theories.
All we said is this stuff's probably coming out in the next few weeks.
Yes, that's what I said. I'm reading these dates from the article.
That's a WCCF Tech article. It's
WCCF.
probably completely false.
Yep, it's stupid WCCF. Why do we still cite them anymore? All right, moving on to our next story before things go south even more. Threadripper. AMD Threadripper proposed. Again, this is a rumor. This could easily be the rumor mill segment of today's show. Threadripper is to cost $849 US. Stop blackmailing me in comments. Stop blackmailing in chat. Go away. I hate all of you. All right, so this article is from Tech Power Up, and they're just saying, hey, there's a rumor out that AMD Threadripper might be $849. This would be the entry level. This speaks for the entry level 16-core chip.
$849.
The Threadripper 1998 will come in at 3.2 gigahertz with a 3.6 gigahertz boost, 155 watt TDP, and is absent of XFR, so you don't get any of that extreme frame rate benefit there. This would be an insane truth if it were true, as this would make the entry level
extended frequency range.
Extended free, yeah. I don't know why I say extended frame rate. Sorry, jet lag.
Wait, what?
I blame the jet lag plus the beer, extended frequency range, whatever. It's all the same shit. This would be insane if it were true. $850 price point for 16-core CPU would put AMD's CPU cheaper than Intel's 10-core 7900X. So that would be 2 fewer cores, 4 fewer threads, but it would be more expensive. I mean, because the Threadripper is, if it were $850, there would be a lesser Intel CPU that would compete with it for $150 more, because the 7900X is $1,000, or purportedly going to be $1,000. So again, this is all speculation and rumor. We don't know. I'm not breaking any NDAs by talking about this right now.
Not at all.
So I don't know. Wishful thinking, I suppose. I would assume that we're all hoping that it's going to be $850.
That'd be cool.
It remains to be seen. These rumors. I feel like sometimes the rumors are just so on point where they're not even rumors. Like someone just got the information straight from the source and they just know and they just leaked it. And then other times rumors are just way off base and they're just sort of like to grab views and have no foundation or validation whatsoever. So it's hard to say at this point how expensive an entry-level Threadripper CPU would cost, but $850 for what it's worth is pretty compelling if AMD can pull off that price point. So, on that note, let's talk about our last article here. Let's do a little change of pace here. We've been talking about Intel and AMD CPUs pretty much the whole time here on Awesome Hardware. Let's take a step back here and talk about something completely different, which is fans. Let's talk about the fans, Paul. Not you fans, but we'll talk about the fans made by Noctua specifically. Nice. This was one booth or one exhibitor that I did not get a chance to check out at Computex this year. However, they were showing off some pretty cool stuff, and PC Gamer was able to get the scoop on their latest creation, which is their A-Series line of new PC fans. It's very exciting, actually. These A-Series fans, have been in development at Noctua for over 4 years, with over 200 prototypes being tested. And rather than stick with common PBT plastic for their fan blades, Noctua is going to be using what they call Skylake-X material, which is a liquid polymer related to Kevlar. It's very tough. The molecular chain structure of this material is fairly ordered already in the liquid state when you push it into the injection mold, and I'm definitely citing a lot of this verbatim because I don't understand it fully, and it gets to a very organized structure once it hardens out in the mold. Basically, it's a lot more stable of a material. It doesn't have the tendency to shift or change shape once it's been in use for several months or years, for example. We'll talk about more about that in a sec. Whereas conventional polymers are completely chaotic in the liquid state and solid state. This matters because the aligned molecular structure gives it more rigidity, way more rigidity. So actually, what PC Gamer was saying is that when you actually feel the fan blades themselves, you don't get any sort of flex like you do with regular PBT plastic. It's much more sturdy, it's a lot denser and firmer, and they're saying that these fans feel like no other fan in the PC market that they've ever felt before. This is like a brand new thing when it comes to our this market, as using this sort of new polymer material for fans. And engineers actually call the Skylake-X material an emergency only material, since it costs about 4 times the amount of PBT plastic. And that basically lets us know right off the bat that this is not going to be, the A series is not going to be a budget fan line. Noctua in general has never been known for their cheap prices, but more so for their performance and low noise, and this is going to outdo their existing line of fans by being even quieter and more efficient. Those are basically the two main advantages of this new Skylake-X design. So for the quieter operation, addressing quieter operation, typically even with included vibration corners or pads that fans come with out of the box, there's still micro vibration that occurs on the surface of the fan itself, on the blade itself. And as a fan blows, or sucks, I'm not going to judge here, pressure on one side of the fan is greater than the pressure on the other, and this new material reduces the vibration, thus lessening the noise output. So it's all very, very scientific, but it's fairly straightforward. The other advantage, of course, being efficiency via a tiny tip clearance, which is not nearly as dirty as it sounds. This is the space. The tip clearance is basically, that I learned something new today, is the space between the fan blades and the housing. All right, so your fan spins in this frame, this rectangular square frame, and the amount of gap that's between the fan blades itself and the housing actually has an effect on the efficiency of the fan itself. So, for example, if you have a large gap between the fan blade and the housing, then as the fan's spinning, especially when it's attached to a radiator or heatsink, there's going to be a lot more airflow that's being leaked through that gap. And that's more airflow that's not being pushed through your radiator or heatsink or whatever fin stack that you have attached to your fan. So what Noctua has done with the A series is that they've actually created a very, very slim gap, only 0.5 millimeters between the fan blade and the housing, so that there's less air leakage. There's literally less air leakage when the fan's spinning, so that more of that air can pass through your fin stack, and that would theoretically increase efficiency. It's kind of interesting too, because the reason why PBT doesn't work so well for this is because PBT blades will actually expand. I didn't really know this. Maybe I did. I heard about this. Why are you laughing? This is science. Why are you laughing in the face of science? You should be ashamed of yourself. As a tech reviewer, you have no right. Are you about to blame the jet lag? Is anyone listening? Is anyone listening? Are you laughing because I'm talking about tip clearance?
No.
What? Is it because I'm putting you to sleep?
I haven't heard a word you said for the last...
Have you literally just been completely zoned out?
5 minutes.
What have you been thinking about?
I don't know.
Have you even been thinking at all? Has this all just been sort of a blur to you?
It's just like my entire My entire thought process was focused on like, all right, Kyle's gonna finish talking,
And it just kept going.
and I'm gonna be like, yeah, that sounds good, Kyle.
But there's only so long that you can nod on for before you just start losing your sanity. I'm sorry. I'll try to wrap this up. I'll try to wrap this up. Shitty PBT fans that we mostly use right now.
Fuck those.
Yeah, fuck them. The blades will actually get longer. Did you know that, Paul?
Really?
Like, without the use of hallucinogens.
Oh.
The fan blades will actually extend. If you use these, like, shitty fans, not shitty fans, but any fan these days that uses this plastic, if you use them for, like, months or years on end, they'll extend, like, 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters. The blades will actually extend because the tensile strength of these blades is not nearly as robust as Sterix material, for example. So with Sterix, you actually don't have any sort of fan flex, and the structure and shape of your fan will stay static. It will remain the same and constant throughout the entire life of the fan, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But when Noctua is trying to decrease the tip clearance between the blade and the housing, you really can't allow the fan blades to expand much. Otherwise, they could interfere with the housing themselves. So, you know, I don't even know. I don't even want to continue because I know you're just it's just going in one ear out the other right now. I'm trying here, Paul. I'm trying. I'm jet lagged too. I'd like to tune out everything you're saying too, you know, but I can't because it's my half of the show, and fuck. Anyway, the A series is gonna be great. It's gonna be a great lineup. Stay tuned. Let's move on to Pin My PC.
Hey,
this is the last segment of this half of the show.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Oh, thank God, I'm done with that story. All right, you have to pee really quick. Or we'll go through this really quick.
All right.
Twern. Thank you very much. This is in honor of the new half case that was announced at Computex. He's been pimping his OG half 932 for like 6 years. Yo, X58 platform, Core i7 950, 13 fans. Holy crap. Damn. Honestly, I would say get a new computer.
Screw all of your work.
Everything's horrible. Just buy new.
All the customization.
Throw it all away. No, I like the action figures. I think they're adorable. They look great in there. Add a lot
of personality.
Add some character in there. I see that Enermax fan just straight up just dangling. Looks like it's right in the middle on top of your SSD almost.
It looks like the graphics card has been swapped out. Was the 950 an upgrade to something that required PCI Express graphics?
No, the 950 is the processor. Core i7 950.
Oh, you're right. What is the graphics card then?
It looks like a little, I don't know.
It's a little Zotac, little
1050
little mini card.
Maybe it's a 950 or something.
All I'm saying is there are peg connectors here that looks like they were previously connected to a graphics card. Also, what's with these clear fans down here at the bottom? What are those there for?
Graphics card maybe, but it's not like a graphics card of that power would really need help with airflow. It's kind of confusing here. It's sort of a mishmash.
But for a customized original half 932, this case I'd say is worthy of like gutting it and replacing the system inside.
Yeah, it's still a good case.
If you want to hang on to that for future use. Because X58 and an i7 950 is getting pretty old.
Right.
But I like the customization.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. Power
supply's still probably good.
Oh yeah.
It's a decent power supply there.
Twern.
Thanks, Twern. Next up we got Sasha. Ryzen 5 1600 gigabyte Aorus AX370 Gaming 5, a Sapphire R9 290 Tri-X, and the Be Quiet Silent Base 800. Beautiful compilation of hardware there. Sasha, and very nice LED implementation. It looks great when it's all lit up. Thanks for that LED picture at night.
That's a good shot.
That's a really good shot. Looks fantastic. Let's see. When we're just looking at it straight on, it looks pretty solid all around. The one thing I would say is you could really use some extensions on that power supply, as we often say for a lot of the submissions we get here on Pit My PC.
Yeah.
A little bit of sleeved extensions goes a long way, my friend. Yeah. And I feel like in your case, I would either go with straight black, or I'd get some white ones. Or you could even get black and white ones. It looks like you've got already a very neutral color scheme here, so that's going to lend itself to be pretty handy. So black and white, black and or white is going to be pretty nice. As far as the rest of the system goes from an aesthetic standpoint, the only thing I could really point out here is that the Arctic branding on your water block for the CPU is upside down, which is not going to bother some, and it's going to drive others who are slightly OCD, like myself sometimes when it comes to this sort of thing, quite crazy. So that's the only other thing, though. I mean,
agree.
How do you feel about the Arctic? Does it drive you insane, or do you not give a shit? Or somewhere in between?
Now that you've pointed it out, it would be cool to have something done about that. But again,
See what you did there.
towards the end of the aesthetic list of things to be corrected on this computer, I think it's okay as is.
Yeah.
But potentially flipping it or just, figuring out some other solution to paint over it or something like that could be an option.
I feel like even, well, I don't know if you could do it with this cooler, but even like sideways, I don't mind if the text is like up
It can't
and down
really go.
vertically.
Well, you might be able to rotate
The bracket.
depending on the teeth.
That's what I
on
was
the
saying,
bracket.
yeah.
But
But
cool.
for the most part, thank you very much, Sasha. Very, very nice looking build, though.
Yeah.
Fantastic looking. Benjamin. Air 540, Z170X Gaming 7, a 6700K, and a GTX 1060 from MSI with an H115i AIO. White LED Corsair AF fans. Those are high airflow AF, bro. Let's see. This is a pretty nice looking system here. I don't know why I picked this one. There's not much to pimp here. The fans all match. There's no color clashing of any kind. Cable management looks pretty good from what I could tell. Again, sleeved extensions, even if you have the flat black cables that come with your power supply, even some sleeved black ones will look a lot better, in my opinion.
The graphics...
Not a huge deal.
The 3.5 inch drive is upside down.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It actually looks okay that way.
It might look even
I just
better.
wanted to point it out. That's an interesting way of putting that in.
Yeah, because it's like black on black, sort of.
The thing that stands out about this build to me
card?
is the graphics card seems small and underpowered.
Yeah.
As compared to the rest of the system.
Yeah, 6700K paired with a 1060, a GTX 1060 just seems sort of imbalanced.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, like the rest of this build looks really fierce, and yet you have this little, like, I don't know, it's like a really buff guy with a tiny penis, you know? So maybe just get a bigger penis.
There you go. Well put, Kyle.
Thank you.
Jeff, El Jefe Reviews, with an i5-3470 system with an Asus Z77 motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR3, a gigabyte 1050 Ti.
Yep.
H105 all-in-one, a gigabit Ethernet card due to the motherboard port being dead.
Oh,
a
that
sad,
sucks.
a sad situation, but hey,
Triple sad face.
a good use of an expansion slot. So glad that you were able to still get that up and running.
Yeah.
All right, so not the most terribly high-end system, but I'll immediately point out you've got a pretty massive all-in-one H105 on an i5-3470, which is not an overclockable CPU. Not like the worst faux pas you could ever do by any stretch, but you've got $100+ all-in-one, which you like I would have just gotten a 35. Why can't I remember the SKUs for the Ivy Bridge processors? 3570K?
3570K, yeah.
I would just gotten a 3570K.
Right.
Instead of that 3470. But maybe it was an upgrade down the line or something like that. So, whatever. Won't give you too much of a hard time. Cable management looks on point. You have some slightly clashing colors in here because you have a motherboard with that light blue aesthetic that Asus was going with back in the Z77 days. But somehow, at least with this picture, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's the bluish white LED lights that kind of match with that or something, but...
The ones on top of his case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't look too bad.
No.
The SSDs, and again,
Weird.
that... It looks like you have an RJ45 cable coming up right here. In the middle of the case, inexplicably. Why is that there? I don't know. Or maybe... No, actually, I bet that's an LED. That's an LED.
Oh, that's the
That's
controller.
for the LED at the top.
The transmitter.
It looks like an
receiver.
RJ45 for a second, though.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, Jeff, I don't know what to tell you as far as making things look prettier. You've got some nice sleeved cables on here for your power supply.
Take the sticker off
That's
of your
340.
Kingston SSD.
Okay, yeah. You can do
And
that.
if you wanted to maybe make it a bit more unique, maybe you could like spray paint one of those SSDs blue and the other one red.
Sure.
That'd be cool. Fun idea.
Yeah.
Or just spray paint both of them black and make them stealth.
Yeah, but hang on to your H105 and then upgrade everything
your
else
CPU.
when you do upgrade.
Indeed.
Oh, and look, here's a back plate. Oh, the graphics card back plate. Cool.
That's nice. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
And then finally, we have an honorable mention. This is just one system I wanted to commend. This is from Samuel. And, you know, it's not like the craziest, most ballered out system that we've seen here on Pimp My PC, but I just feel like he did a good job for what he had. And it's not like, you know, again, the most high-end components or anything. He actually didn't even list what specs that we're rocking here, but I just feel like it's
he did.
Oh, he did.
i5
I got the other.
3550.
I did get that text. Or that tweet.
P8H77-V motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR3.
All right.
A Sapphire 7950, a Cooler Master Enforcer, 600 watt power supply, and of course a 128 gig SSD with a WD 500 gig blue drive. So yeah, like Kyle said, not by any stretch a high-end system.
No.
I mean, a little bit older, but still, you know, perfectly adequate for gaming.
It reminds me of like a
1080.
pre-built almost. I think it might be the case. I feel like it looks just reminiscent of like a modern day pre-built, maybe from MSI or something like that.
We got primary black, a couple blue accents that go along with the blue LEDs on the cooler and the fans.
Yeah.
So everything looks pretty clean.
I feel like that CPU cooler really matches with the case sort of aesthetic.
I'm not familiar with this cooler.
I'm not either. I was just like, that's a weird cooler, but somehow it works so
Vapor?
well.
Is it a Vapor X?
But somehow it works so well with the case and just everything else, and the graphics card. Everything looks just like the appropriate amount, like the proportional amount of cheesy.
That's
in
Vapor X.
in a good way.
It's a Vapor X cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. It almost looks like a Sapphire logo in a way. That's
Kinda.
weird. But yeah, I mean, apart from like, you know, you got maybe some ketchup mustard in there, but with the blue LEDs, it sort of washes it out, and you can't really tell at all. I think it's a pretty solid build here.
Yeah.
Pretty solid looking
Looks very
system.
nice.
It looks like you've kept it clean too over the years. That's nice. So thank you very much, Samuel, for that. Thought you deserved an honorable mention.
Thanks, Samuel.
But what should we do now? It's 8:06. Do you think we should just dive into our donation stuffs, or do more Q&A?
I think we should dive
Let's
into
just
donations.
dive into donations,
but
because
I have
people
to-
will
I
ask
have to
even
take a
more.
bathroom break.
Okay, you take a
You
bathroom
wanna
break.
get
I'll try
started?
to get a start on this.
Okay.
Oh my God, there's so many. When does it even start?
Yeah, when does your end half start and my half end?
I am gonna look for that right
Yeah.
now. Do. Okay. Oh my God, there's so many people. There's so many people. What? What? My fucking God, Kyle's having last. Sell. I got your comment, Sell. Okay, sorry, we're almost done. This is the last. We're on the last stretch. We're with the last stretch.
You need to hurry up.
We need to hurry up. You need to shut it. Shut your face.
I'm sure your friends are mine if you got so early.
All right, I'm gonna go through these donations really quick. X-Ray Gaming, $5. Chug, chug, chug. We are literally out of beer. I have 0 beer. I cannot chug right now. I'll owe you one on the next show. Adam Yeager, $5. Thank you very much, sir. No comment. Scott Dilbeck, also no comment. $10. Thank you, Scott. Bobby Jr., Bobby Jr., $2. Abbott and Costello did Who's on First. Thank you. Paul has already realized that he was wrong and admits that he sucks. Sai Diraj Konasani for the 40 whatever currency that is. Guys, try Wallpaper Engine from Steam for your PC. I will bear that in mind if I don't forget it by the end of this episode. X-Ray Gaming again, $5. With all the black y'all wear, do y'all listen to techno? Where's the correlation there? I've never seen a line graph with the direct correlation between people who wear black and listening to techno music. I just don't know where that comes from. But yeah, I listen to lots of techno music, and I wear lots of black, so there's probably some truth to that. Automatic Matt for the $5. Hey guys, you could say AMD is thread ripping Intel a new one. Ho boom. Also say hi to Bianca and Cheyenne. Who's Bianca and Cheyenne? Bianca, who's that? I don't know who those people are, but hi to whoever. Oh, probably people that you're with, Matt. I was like, we don't have anyone here by those names. I'm Kyle and he's Paul. Delinquent Jack, $5 Canadian, just piping in to say you guys are awesome. I think you meant popping in. Cheers, though. Juan Guerrero for the $100 donation. What?
Goodness.
Good lord, love the content, Kyle. As for Paul, I just started to watch his channel I posted on the Pimp My PC. LOL, mine is a Thermaltake, the Tower 900. Just tell me what you think. I built it when I got bored. Also, my first time watching you live. Always working when you're live. Well, awesome. Juan, I'm going to look for your build at some point on Twitter after the show. I'll let you know what I think about it. Sure enough, thank you so much for the $100 donation. That's awesome.
Thank you, Juan.
Kanis Diris for the $5. My remaining budget for my GPU is $800 USD, and I just have to ask, should I wait for the 1080 Ti Kingpin or get what is now available for the 1080 Ti? Kingpin is going to cost you significantly more for probably not terribly much more performance. I would just go for a relatively affordable GTX 1080 Ti. It's still, I think it's better price to performance in the grand scheme of things, as price to performance-y as you can get with a card of that caliber. Again, if you have
the Kingpin cards are guaranteeing that you can run
hit at certain
2025 megahertz, which is a nice overclock for a 1080 Ti, but it's not like an insanely good overclock for a 1080 Ti.
Yeah.
So.
Diminishing law of returns. If you're willing to spend a lot more money for a little bit more performance, then Kingpin's where you're at. Otherwise, go elsewhere. Indreju for the $2. Release date on Fantech's Glacier Res Pump. I don't know.
I believe they were saying Q3 for most of that stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But you should either tweet Fantex, check the Fantex store directly, or they said that their water cooling stuff was going to be up on performance PCs.
Right.
So keep your eye out there.
Daniel Druzak for the $2. Share some love over to Kyle too. Thank you very much, sir. Tom's Primsbits 100 NOK. What's NOK? I don't know.
I'll find out.
Listening every week while working at night. I have 7600K at 5.1 gigahertz on water and 1.315 volts. My question is about PCIe lanes. If I put 960 EVO SSD, does that mean it steals X4 lanes from my 980 Ti? No,
it's
because
Norwegian Krona. We've dealt with this before.
Norwegian Krona.
Yes.
So the 960 Evo, that would be a SATA?
What?
960 Evo is NVMe.
NVMe.
So yes, it would steal 4 lanes technically from your 980 Ti. I believe that's correct, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can run on NVMe. It can run on PCIe Gen 3 by 2, but
it won't be as nice.
You wouldn't. The bandwidth it is made to run at PCIe
Gen 3
by 4.
Right.
So yeah, you'd want to avoid limiting the bandwidth if possible.
Indeed. And then we've got I Love Catweasel for the 10 British pounds. The gubup. Thank you very much, Catweasel. Watch Laurel and Hardy's 1932 Oscar-winning movie, The Music Box. It's comic genius. Thumbs up from the UK. Maybe you should.
Thank you. Maybe I should. Maybe then I will not mistake who Laurel and Hardy is.
That's okay. I didn't even know who they were before this conversation. Matt Grimes for the $20.
Thanks,
I
Matt.
agree. Micro ATX doesn't get enough love, especially on Ryzen. Asus has a Z270 Strix board with RGB options, and it looks really freaking good. The lowly B350 Asus boards look like shit, IMHO. You can really tell less effort went in, absolutely. And of course, those boards are also paired with lower price points, so it's sort of understandable. But it would be kind of cool to see a more sort of thoughtful micro ATX board that maybe has some of the nice bling features for once, for maybe even a little bit more money. I think some builders would be down for that.
We need a Crosshair 6 Gene.
Gene,
Crosshair
yes,
6
Gene is micro ATX.
Please,
right?
Asus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good old Gene. I always think of like an old guy when I think of Gene.
Yeah.
Motherboard Gene.
But it's Gene like the genes that are in you.
Gene.
All right,
Genes that are
genes.
in you.
Yeah.
I don't want an old guy named Gene in me, that's for sure. Ryan Bisco Barnes for the 50 Canadian. Thank you for the help with my first build. Go Leafs, go! Who are the Leafs? Is that a Canadian football team?
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Kyle. Oh, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sorry, I'm an uncultured American. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. I do appreciate that donation. Very generous of you. Des Jones for the $2, R5 1600X and a B350 motherboard, plus EVGA for the win. 3 GTX 1080 Ti winning. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I cannot dispute that whatsoever. Thank you very much, Des. Pete Cotton, $2. Corsair Sync It, best new RGB tech, or wait and see. I am excited for the new Corsair software, assuming that they do come out with it, because it's purportedly or proposedly going to replace Corsair Link and Q, which I think would be a good thing. Instead of having 3 different softwares to control all the things, just have one application to rule them all. Corsair is increasingly coming out with more RGB-riddled components, their Hydro series of coolers, RGB strips, their cases, etc., memory, so it makes sense to just have one application to do everything, and the demo that they showed, while it was a concept at Computex, hopefully it does surface as an end-user product at some point. Anything to add to that?
I was going to say, to get the fanciness of the individually addressable LEDs, at least for the time being, is going to be more of a proprietary solution that you're going to have to invest in one company's hardware to make it all work. That said, Corsair's option does seem like the most full-featured, flexible option for controlling everything, at least that I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like, you're not going to be able to take that and have interoperability with something like an NZXT-Q or that kind of thing. So there's, again, there's going to be a lot of fragmentation in that RGB market of, like, versus just your typical RGB power plug that a lot of the boards have right now versus, like, individually addressable, more functions, more features, more controls. But yeah, I mean, as long as you're willing to invest all in Corsair stuff, it does seem like they have a pretty viable option for that.
Indeed. Next up, we've got... Greg
Reeves.
I lost my place. Oh, $20. Thank you very much, Greg. I hooked up my new console killer PC to a 4K TV today. Nice. Know of a good resource I can use to calibrate the color. Also, I got some good tips on painting the case from Kyle's older video, so thanks. I tweeted you both a pic. Sweet. I haven't seen the tweet yet, but hopefully I'll get around to it. Let's see. A good resource you can use to calibrate color.
I have no idea.
Jeez, I honestly have not done that on any of my panels, to be honest. I know I should be shunned and crucified at the stake, but it seems like a simple Google search away.
Tech Radar. Look at this Tech Radar article.
There you go.
From December 31st, 2016, which is the first result when you search Google for 4K TV color calibration.
Gotta love Google.
I don't know. Tech Radar is a good company. So this is how I would start investigating something like that.
It's a mystery why you guys even ask this question.
There's color calibration tools you can buy that like hang down in front of the TV and connect via USB and actually sense the color that's on there. There's probably less expensive options too. The color calibration tools are probably going to cost you $100 to $200. Often really high end, like pro art style, color depth accurate monitors will ship with the color calibration tool because they're that expensive as is.
Indeed.
But yeah, hopefully that at least gets you started.
Good luck on that.
Serpent XFX.
Always a pleasure, guys, for the $10 donation. Kyle, how's that camera you brought to Computex doing? Also, Z270 Tai Chi with 7700K, Aorus GTX 1080 Ti, and 960 Evo. Was this a bad investment? I bought it in February 2017.
No.
I don't think so whatsoever. That sounds like a fantastic system. It sounds like pretty much the fastest rig you can get right now on, I mean, for that amount of money, to be honest. If you're talking just pure frame rates, the 7700K is going to absolutely crush it. Paired with, I mean, that's really one of the most worthy CPUs to be paired with a GTX 1080 Ti, I feel.
Yeah.
It's not going to bottleneck even if you're at like GTX 1080. I'm sorry, even if you're at 1920 by 1080, for example, not nearly as much as some of the other competitors. But the camera that I brought with me to Computex was fantastic. The RX 100 M5 was just an absolute fantastic solution. It was completely what I wanted. It was a lightweight package, super portable, easy to fit in a pocket, but also strapped to, say, like a PCM recorder to get some really high-quality audio when that was attached to my wireless lav setup, and it was amazing. It won't be the last time that I'm using that setup for an event, that's for sure. Sebastian Casella for the 50 ARS. Thank you very much, sir. Great coverage of Computex. Also, Double Jenkins, trademarked, to Kyle. Double Jenkins. I'm going to start doing Double Jenkins from now on. To Kyle for pronouncing Buenos Aires.
It's an Argentine peso.
Ah, yes, that's right. For pronouncing Buenos Aires right on one of his attempts in the last show.
Nice.
Wow, awesome. I'm glad my...
at least one of them worked.
My pronunciation is on point there. Tom Bremsmitz for the 50 NOK. By the way, these are Norwegian krones.
Yes, Norwegian krona.
Yes, krona, sorry. When will be next Pimp My PC segment? Perhaps next week, who knows? I always miss them and only remember when watching the stream. Hopefully next week, if not next week, definitely the week after. I usually do it either every week or every other week. Juan Guerrero for another $50 donation.
My God.
Jeez. I forgot to ask. I run a 4-monitor setup and game using NVIDIA Surround on my 3 Asus Swift PG248Q 180Hz monitors. What card should I use to run games like Battlefield 1 on max settings, or the Division? I have an MSI GTX 1070. So if you have a 4-monitor setup, you're probably using 3 of them, like you said, for surround. Get a GTX 1080 Ti, I would say at the very least, to run those. 180 hertz monitor, you're probably not going to be able to push 180 hertz on all 3 of those, to be honest.
They're 1080.
They're 1080, but with a single 1080 Ti, I mean, Battlefield 1 on max settings, I don't know about that. Probably not, but get 2 of them. Maybe get 2 1080 Ti's.
Yeah, for your configuration with high frame rate,
that's what
you basically want as much GPU horsepower as you can handle.
Yeah.
So I'd start with the 1080 Ti right now.
Yeah.
And then maybe consider 2 of them. Consider 2-way 1070, but I would opt for a single 1080 Ti before 2-way 1070.
Yeah. Envy in Motion for the $2. Can I use a 3200 16x4 gig RAM kit with Ryzen 1800X?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Depends.
Maybe.
Depends on the RAM kit.
And the BIOS.
Depends on what types of actual integrated circuits are used on that RAM kit. If it is not a kit that is already validated specifically for Ryzen, then you're probably not going to just be able to run 3200 speed, especially with a 4-stick kit out of the box.
Yeah.
That's more of a challenge. For Ryzen, your best bets right now are to get memory that you know works with Ryzen. There's some Corsair kits and some G-Skill kits that have been validated for higher speeds, and your best bet is to stick with as few memory sticks as possible. So I would opt for a 2x8 gig kit versus a 4x4 gig kit.
And upgrade later, maybe down the line once compatibility improves.
Yeah.
Will E, $10. Built my first PC based on your guys' videos. Couldn't have done it without you. Awesome. Your Asus IX, what is that? 9 Hero. i7 7700K EVGA GTX 1080 for the Win 2 EVGA 750 watt G3 Corsair Vengeance. Okay, just a bunch of specs. Hope I have chosen well.
That's a nice system.
That looks good.
It's a nice build.
GTX 1080 7700K. Why not?
You're gonna have people coming at you telling you should have bought a Ryzen and blah blah, and you could get 6 cores and 8 cores. But you know what? For gaming with the 7700K in your setup, you're totally fine.
Yeah.
Give yourself 6 months to a year and a half before you start thinking to yourself, maybe I should get a higher core count CPU.
If you are going to be doing things other than gaming.
Yeah.
If you're going to be streaming, for example, editing, whatever. X-Ray Gaming for the $2. Wake up, Paul.
I'm trying to stay awake.
We're almost done, but you guys keep donating. We keep having to answer your stupid questions. No, I'm just kidding. We love you all. Thank you very much for donating.
Fred again.
Fred Rant, $20. Holy crap, for Paul hanging in there. Well, at least he tried to.
Trying. Do my best.
He's an old man.
I know.
His time has come. Daniel Druzak again for the $2. Noctua fan sleeper agent activate. What does that mean? Noctua fan sleeper agent activate.
I was falling asleep while you were trying to explain the stuff about the.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's like the ultimate Paul lullaby. Is
Noctua
a series Noctua fans. They don't use
it's
PBT plastic.
Alright, the PBT plastic stuff was different, but all the stuff about the distance between the fins and the thing, that was all from last year. They talked about it all last year.
Oh my god. Well, it was a refresher. Who knows? You might have been asleep last year when they were announcing it.
Based on it.
All right, Adam Yeager, $2. Can you wish my wife Rachel a happy birthday? Happy birthday, Rachel!
Happy birthday, Rachel!
Happy birthday! You look 21 years young.
Many more.
I really hope you're
happy returns.
actually older than 21. Otherwise, that wouldn't be a compliment. Bryant Alvarez, $5. Worth the pricing. With the pricing of the Asus Maximus 9 code plus a Core i7 7700K, is this a sound buy, or should I wait for the X299 chipset plus Skylake combos? Honestly, no. Just get the Maximus 9 code with the 7700K. It's gonna be awesome. Do it. Don't. I mean, unless you're doing some really high-end shit that's workstation based. If you're just gonna be gaming, get the 7700K.
I agree with Kyle. If all you're doing is gaming.
Yep. Dylan Gregory,
Thanks,
$2. Thank you for the donation, Dylan Gregory, for $5. Do you guys have any recommendations for external optical drives?
No.
Nope. They're all pretty much the same to me.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Get one that works.
Yep.
There is a new 4K Blu-ray optical drive that just recently launched for computers, but I haven't.
Asus had one at their booth.
They did this year?
It was RGB. It's an RGB optical drive.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I featured it in the outro that I did for that booth.
I didn't get that far. Okay.
Deep down the rabbit hole you had to go.
Pete
Cotton, $5. You guys are awesome. Thanks for the great response.
You're welcome,
Thank
Pete.
you for the donation.
Thanks,
Christian
man.
Aponte, $2. Hey, Bitwit,
Christian.
how can a fan buy a build from you? Unless you're local, I'm probably not going to ship it because it's going to cost a lot of money and also risk damage in the process. So usually I only sell or pawn off systems for giveaways if I'm going to be shipping it. Otherwise, you pretty much have to be local. Sorry. Bobby Jr. for the $10. Hey guys, I'm a fairly new subscriber and I really enjoy both your channels. Just wondering what technical background you guys have. Do you guys have degrees? I have a degree, but it's in something completely different than anything related to tech, really. I mean, as multimedia production has nothing to do with like building PCs or knowing about DIY hardware, things like that. I pretty much learned a lot that I know today from Paul after working or after getting a job at Newegg about 4 or 5 years ago now, and just sort of learning the ropes from him. And then after breaking off from Newegg, just sort of going on my own exploration and doing research and things like that. But
I don't have a degree either. I was a bad college student. I learned most of the stuff I know from reading and just being interested in it. And I used to read Maximum PC, the magazine, a lot back in the day. And yeah, just kind of staying up with the tech news and learning as much as I can whenever I can.
Thanks,
That's
Internet.
how I do it.
X-Ray Gaming for the $5. I feel bad for making y'all drink so fast, and Paul is sleepy now. Don't give in to peer pressure, guys. Rise above, and thanks for the responses.
Thanks, X-Ray.
Thanks, X-Ray. Surge for the $5. Can you give me some input on my sleeper land project? I sent you a feeler on Twitter about water cooling it. Oh my goodness. Goodness. Let's see. Sleeper land project. So it's like a land rig. Oh geez, it's an iMac.
Oh God.
Is that really it? Oh, it's really an iMac that has you built a PC onto it? Oh wow, this is like a really in-depth project. This is like something that you'd see on the front page of Twitter or something. Honestly, just from at a glance, it looks like a very ambitious project that you've taken on, and it looks cool. I mean, I see Windows booting onto an iMac. I like.
That's fun.
I tend to like that sort of thing. So, congrats and good luck on the rest of the project if you're not finished with it yet. So. Thank you very much, Serge. And then I think on that note, we can go ahead and do some really quick Johnson shout-outs because I've got a couple here. First off, Johnson to Ryan for picking up a white logo Bitwit shirt. Thank you very much, sir. We've also got a Johnson for Jason B. From Washington, D.C.
Ryan gets a double Johnson.
Double Johnson. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then we've also got one from Chris Vega. His last name's Vega. That's awesome. Vega, Bitwit shirts. Thank you, sir. And then the last one.
Jason B gets double Johnson too.
Double Johnson.
Double Johnson for Jason.
All right. That's pretty much it. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I got a message from Cell that just said Paul is asleep.
I was not asleep. I was only partially asleep.
I love that I can just go on, like, ramble on my half of the show without even noticing that you're unconscious.
Yep.
All right, very interactive show we have here. Let's do a final Twitch raid for a favorite streamer of mine. Who is this?
Femme Iviore.
I have no idea who that is, but I'm sure she's great. This is a recommendation from our good moderator, Cell Processing, I believe. So go ahead and follow, or go ahead and raid Femme Ivoire. Ask her how to pronounce her name, and also send her lots of love from Paul and I of Awesome Hardware. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back again next week. Same time, same bat channel, and all that jazz. Until next time, though, have a good one.
Bye,
have a good night. Have a good morning. Bye. We'll see you later. Thanks for watching.
For watching.
Yep. Go ahead and toss a like on the video, too, if you're on YouTube. Goodbye.